people say, oh, you think outside the box. And I go, why do we admit and concede that there's actually a box? That's the difference between some people who are successful and those aren't. The little sheep that are going to follow the traditional ways of doing things, they're going to follow the herd right into the slaughterhouse. But those that can think independently and know that there's a better way and seek out that better way, those are the ones that will get beyond this slaughterhouse.
What's up, everybody? Going live from the lounge at my house. We're snowed in today, but thanks for joining me for this episode. It's going to be a super fun one. We got Rob Napolitano on, and we were talking offline just about some things. Well, talking about how he gets pumped up on Godsmack. We were talking about his awesome chair. We were going into all sorts of stuff. But you know what we're going to get into today? We're going to talk about how you can be in control of your money with being your own bank. And not just that, we're going to talk about his hero journey and how he found this from marketing to real estate to where he's at today. What the hell? Let's just dive right in. Rob, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Chris. It's a real pleasure being here. I appreciate with all the snow going on over there that you still took the time to spend some time with me today. I know you're going through a lot with the snow up there, but for you, I'm sure this type of environment for you is what you love doing, being a snowboarder and stuff. So I'm sure you're enjoying all of it.
Going through a lot. I'm actually pretty excited, man. I get to, as soon as the South towns open up where the hills are, I mean, man, this is POW territory. I get to go see some East Coast powder, but it's a bit heavy snow, so might not be so fun, but we'll go in the backcountry, build some jumps and have some fun.
Right over that pond you built, right? You still going fishing in that pond?
I swim across it. I haven't gone fishing in it yet, but I swim it almost every day in the summer. But at this point in time, I think the swimming is on a hold for right now.
Well, if you're like me, you can have fun in a phone booth, no matter what the weather is outside and what the environment is. You find a good time anywhere you go, I'm sure.
Yeah, you find me a phone booth and I'll find a way to have fun. Those things don't really exist anymore like they used to back when we were younger.
Yeah, we can have a lot of fun. But yeah, I guess let's kind of get into it and stuff. I'm excited to be have a conversation. I love your topic and what you guys talk about.
Yeah, I know you know the BYOB concept, real estate quite well. So let's go back in time a little bit. Like, what's your journey been? Like, how have you got where you're at today?
Oh, so I won't go too far back. I'll tell you about how I'm the son of two Italian immigrants that came here in the 60s, with just a high school education. Came with nothing and did very well for themselves. My father was a bus driver in Manhattan. I grew up in New York. My father was a bus driver in Manhattan. My mother cut hair, and they made their wealth in real estate, not knowing much with a high school education. I learned real estate from them by learning about their mistakes and how they did it. I saw them doing it growing up and all the mistake that they made. And I eventually wanted to be into it. I had an interest, but my first interest and my first love wasn't there. I went to school for computer science, building networks and doing software and stuff. And never finished college. I actually started working at Payne Weber as a summer intern back then and never went back because I loved the summer internship. And then that ended and I went out to be a consultant and working on my own consulting company. I eventually got into real estate investing when I made some money and saw what my parents did with their money. And then I wanted to learn about
on the consulting side, like what were you consulting? So you went from Payne Weber, that would be like Wall Street stuff. So what were you consulting on during that period?
So after I stopped at Payne Weber, I went to so I had a choice. I can either stay in corporate America and learn one technology discipline and be disciplined in that. But I always had this thirst for variety. I wanted to learn different ways to do different things. And I said, if I just went to go work for Merrill Lynch, Bank of America, Banco Popular, all these offers that I had, I said, yeah, I'm going to learn how they do it. And they may do it right. They may do it wrong. I'm just going to learn their way. But if I was a consultant and I went to different firms to implement different technologies and different strategies, I could see what worked better in one place. And then I could kind of take that knowledge and bring it somewhere else and create my knowledge base and my specialized skill of who I was and become more valuable and market myself better that way. So the consulting, and the other thing is too, I was never good working for one person. I always had my own ideas. I remember my first job at delivering newspapers. I loved collecting that check. but I would never deliver the paper. They would deliver me the papers to deliver and a check at the same time. I said, this is great. I already got my check. So I would just kind of take the papers and throw them in the woods and never really deliver them until people started complaining they weren't getting their paper. They caught up on me and I couldn't keep that job anymore. But I always had different ideas about how I thought business and money was going to work, and being and conforming to a structure and rules and, have my thinking forced in a certain way never worked well with me. I never liked being put in boxes, and what box? I don't believe there's boxes that think outside of that box. I don't believe in the box.
That's really good. I don't know if you've ever listened to or read Earl Nightingale's The Strangest Secret in the World, but in there they talk about that study. You had just literally talked about two sides, and those two sides are, in today's world, you could just say, the country's divided, the world's divided, but really success is divided too, because the only way that people are ever going to be successful is by choosing to create what you just described. Most people aren't successful, and it's not, for any other reason than they conformed. They conform to being in that little box, which keeps them trapped. And then debt also, which I call debt slavery, keeps them trapped in the financial slavery world. But you decided to go off and create, which is really cool. I'm glad you brought that up. And you even said conform. And I'm like, wow, has he heard Napoleon Hill's or not Napoleon Hill, Earl Nightingale's The Strangest Secret in the World? And if you haven't, you got to listen to that.
Before this falls off my shelf, speaking of Napoleon Hill, I keep it with me.
Oh, there you go. Think and Grow Rich. And, I'm about to start his other book. I've read it twice already, but, something with the devil. What is that one? It'll come to me in a second. I just lost my train of thought, but I love that book, and you had it right there. But in that book, it talks a lot about conforming versus creation too.
Yeah, that's why I'm not a believer when people say, "Oh, you think outside the box," and I go, "Why do we admit and concede that there's actually a box?" That's the wrong mindset right there. What box? Why are we thinking there's a box? How about I just think? We just think. We don't have to conform, and that's what's part of what makes this country and this world and our lives so great, is that we actually can be creative and we can think and just think differently. Question, look at it from different angles.
Love it, man. Love it. So you were saying, so you went out to do this consulting, and you saw how your parents handled money. So let's keep going with that story. I didn't mean to cut you off. I just thought.
I was doing well, making money. Got into the mortgage business then after I did my consulting. Because one of my clients that I picked up was actually a real estate agency who needed to build VPN networks across all their offices, across all the boroughs of New York. And so I went to all their offices, built the VPN and stuff, and I saw what they were doing. They were doing a lot of real estate investing and developing, and I got friendly with the owners, and I loved the way they were thinking about real estate. And I said, you know what? You guys are sparking my interest again about real estate. And I wanted to go do a deal with them. They said, we're starting a mortgage company. Why don't you go work in the mortgage companies? I'd love to learn the money side of it. And I went to go work in their mortgage company in Brooklyn. From the bottom. I learned the business from the bottom up. And I got to tell you, at that time, you're talking about that's the late 90s, early 2000s that was, in a run up to the subprime crisis. I saw all the fraud that was going on, or who was copying W-2s and cutting and pasting bank statements all in the back room. I never got a part of that, but I saw all of it. I said, this is an ugly side of the business that I see, but I don't want to be part of. And I eventually broke away and started my own mortgage company, just, doing the right thing for people, thinking I knew everything. But it turns out I sucked at it, because in 2007 to 2008, when the crisis happened, I found myself over leveraged, too much debt, because I didn't learn real estate investing from my family. You learn something on the street. And I did pay one of those gurus back then on how do you do real estate. You do the wholesaling, you're knocking on doors, and, lease options and rentals and passive income, all that stuff. I learned all that. And they teach it that traditional way. And I did it. You buy some properties, you leverage, you use that. And it got me in over my head. And in 2007, 2008, when the subprime crisis hit, I was on the verge of losing everything. I sucked at real estate investing. And it was a harsh time. I mean, I was buried in debt and I couldn't dig my way out. I wanted to dig my way out. My income was completely severed, because the mortgage industry at that point just died. And my outlook and my future looked real grim back then. And it was hard for me to swallow my pride, because I didn't want to disappoint anybody. And, you're trying to show that you're doing it. I was driving around a convertible Porsche back then. I had a condo on the water down in on the Jersey Shore overlooking the Atlantic Ocean. And I was in it, man. But all of a sudden, my income was cut. I had all this stuff. I didn't want to swallow my pride. I felt like I couldn't go to the next plateau, man. So it was really depressing. And when I couldn't pay my bills, people started labeling me as a deadbeat. My last two properties that I had as investment properties went into foreclosure. My Porsche got repossessed, and everything was in a dark spiral downwards. I was, again, being labeled as that deadbeat back then, later on, I found out, I came to terms that sometimes bad things and bad circumstances happen upon good people. I had to forgive myself, but I was believing that I was a deadbeat. I was getting depressed. I was not good at anything. I wasn't worth anything. But at that time, I had just been engaged to my current wife. And that was the only thing I had going well for me at that point. And that was my lifeline. That was the only good I had going. Everything was dark, and the only brightness that I had was her. And we were just a couple of years into our relationship. And I didn't want to lose her and disappoint her and lose her too. And then I remember this exact moment where we were in my condo over the water, beautiful day, and I had all my bills laid out. I had my mortgage payment had to come here. I had 2 or 3 mortgages to be paid, and I was paying for my credit cards, my mortgage bills, robbing from Peter to pay Paul, and I had all my bills, and I had no more cash to do this, and I was so stressed out, laid it all out there. And she came up to me and said, "What can I do? Can I pay someone this for you?" And I got so insulted by that. I went off on her. How dare you? I'm proud. You can't help me. I'm a man. I can take care of myself. I'm supposed to be taking care of you. And I went off on her, and she was beside herself. She started tearing up. I still remember the tears, welling up at the bottom of her eyes, her bottom lip trembling. And I just stood outside myself and punched myself in the face. How dare I? The one thing I didn't want to ruin, I went and I did that to her. Who the hell did I think I was? And at that point, that's when I was at my lowest. I was a broken man at that point. Okay. I sucked as a man, and I knew at that point, I was like, okay, none of this stuff is going to bother me. I'm not going to let money, power, posture, and presentation and how I look for people bother me and rule me anymore. Because if it's going to make me sacrifice the best thing I had in my life at that point, then it's not worth it. And so I decided, I gave up on all that stuff. I said, you know what? Fine. I'm the deadbeat. I put myself in this position. I'm going to dig myself out. And so so what I ended up doing is just dropped it all there. I said, okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to dig myself out, and I'm going to fight this rigged system. And so I went to law school to become a paralegal. I wanted to learn how the legal system worked. I said, in the middle of all this subprime crisis, there's going to be distress. There's going to be fights. There's going to be people going through the same thing. I wanted in on that fight. And I want to get ahead of this, and I want to be a part of the mess and learn how to unwind the mess. And so I said, I went to law school to become a paralegal and learned all that. And a few months later, 2 days before I got married, I filed for a Chapter 13 bankruptcy. I put it all in the legal system's hands, and I said, here's my entire financial state of affairs. I can't handle it anymore. And I went and got married. I kind of like cut the cord there. Here's my past life. In 2 days, I'm starting a new life, starting fresh, and I'll deal with my past while I'm building my future. Okay. And it was a couple months later, we got pregnant. And so when my daughter was born, a year and a day after the day after my first year anniversary, when she was born and put into my arms, that was the moment. Someone took a great picture, so I could show you a picture of. Someone took a picture of me, nose to nose her, and it changed me as a man. I said, now life is not about me anymore. I was now given the responsibility to be the steward of someone else's life. And I said, a deadbeat wouldn't be given this responsibility. I said, maybe God does believe in me. And so I felt like I was given a second chance to prove my self-worth. And I needed to risk it all to become worthy of this responsibility. And so from that moment, my life didn't become about me anymore. It became about serving her, serving my life, serving my family, and turning my business into a business of service. And so I needed to hold myself accountable. And I wanted to go back into my bankruptcy and hold those too big to fail institutions accountable as well. And so I fought them inside my bankruptcy. And it turns out that was the start of my rebound. Okay. It wasn't too long after that the one property that I had that had gone through foreclosure, okay, I actually got it overturned. I had the court system take the property away from the bank and hand it back to me. Never before had that been done in New Jersey. Everybody's telling me it was impossible. My attorneys were telling me it was going to be impossible. And I pushed on. I pushed on with our arguments. I pushed on with the way I knew the way the system worked and where they were hiding their skeletons and their dead bodies, so to speak. And I kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And the judge started biting into this. Said, you know what? He's right. You guys illegally foreclosed on him. I'm vacating the sheriff's sale and giving it back to him. Done. Never thought that was going to happen, but it was on my comeback. And so it took me 3+ years to get through my bankruptcy. And when it was all said and done, those big institutions had enough of me that they made a settlement with me. They ended up paying all of my creditors in my bankruptcy. They ended up paying all of my attorneys. And I ended up walking away with a check. I'm bound by confidentiality that I can't talk about the specifics about that settlement, but I'm one person who went into a bankruptcy at a certain net worth and came out with a higher net worth. Who does that?
No one.
And so I was hooked. I went into the belly of the beast and I won. I beat them. And so I was hooked on doing this. And I said, I want more of this. And so now I'm repurposed. Now I come out of there. And ever since then, and to this day, my purpose of protecting my family and their future, that's been my guiding light. And so I took stock in what had happened to me. I beat the rig system. And for the next 10 years, I learned how to play offense and defense in real estate investing this time around. And so I started buying the mortgage notes, being the bank, so I can control that position so that when defaulting homeowners are going through what I went through, they now at least have a fighting chance to get on the better side of this. Okay. And they end up in a better position if they can with me being the bank on their side. Okay. So I can be the bank. I have more of a positive impact on people's life by controlling that foreclosure journey for them. And it led me to my mission today, where now I run a boutique alternative investment firm that bridges the gap between Wall Street and Main Street. Okay. These financial institutions, they don't care. It's a rigged game. I have investment rigged game. It is a rigged game. And even so now I go after a lot of these financial planners today, because a lot of people look at where to place money. And a lot of money now is looking for alternative investments. And these traditional financial advisors, no, don't go into alternatives. You know why they don't want people to go into alternatives? Because they don't know about it. So it's one of two things. Either they don't know what alternatives are, or they do, and they know how good it is, and they don't want to tell anybody else. So it's a rigged,
and they can't get paid.
They can't get paid on it.
So many of the alternative investments out there, advisors cannot do them. I was for 16 years a high-level advisor. We couldn't talk about them. We couldn't even talk about self-directed IRAs for one reason. They called it selling away. Oh, that's so bad. Oh my God, it's illegal. Fuck that. You know what selling away is? It's the broker dealer not being able to get paid. That's it.
That's right.
Even if it's the best thing in the world for the client.
That's right.
The broker dealer can't get paid. So they made this rule called selling away, which basically means you can't talk to your clients about the stuff that the wealthy do. You can't tell them about the really good things because we can't get paid. So
that's right.
Sell the
it's
high
a rigged game.
Products.
And just like in that game, like every other game with the banks as well, nobody's got your back. When I went through my bankruptcy, nobody had my back until, like I said, I found my wife. And from the very beginning, when I had nothing, she was there. Okay. And then 4 years later, I was gifted again with my son. So I must be doing it right, because I got the gift of another one. So I must not be that deadbeat. I must be doing it right, because now I got two of them that I'm responsible for and doing very, very well with it. I've got the two funds now that we're buying along. So here's my offense and defense. Here's how I do it, right? So we buy the mortgage loans. We help homeowners stay in their homes. We put accredited investors into our funds. We give them a place where they can, plan for their long-term future for their kids too. And then we also go out and buy life settlements, distressed life insurance policies, and that acts as our defense.
Entire fund for that. So
yes, we have an entire fund,
$1 million worth of those.
We built a fund for that as well. And so those life settlements act as the guarantee in our business, so that it absorbs all of our risk and all of our losses. So now we're doing real estate investing as the bank, and have those guarantees of the absorbed loss going in there. So now it becomes a safer, secure investment so that people now, credit investors only, can come in and get that significance that they want for their family. And they're not getting it from the financial advisor because they're getting screwed. They're not getting it from the banks because they're getting screwed. They're not getting it from the insurance companies because they're getting screwed. So I'm tired of everybody getting screwed. Nobody had my back. I want to put something together in this business this time, playing offense, defense, having other people's back. I mean, sorry, you get me wound up about this because it's what I'm passionate about. So that's my story, and that's where I'm at today.
I feel like you've watched all my stuff. It's almost like it's everything that led me to my journey where I'm at. I was a Wall Street advisor, 16 years doing that. And my final 2 years, I was in a boutique, RIA. We were managing large portfolios of money for either individuals or institutions. And I saw, remember you talked about those backroom activities going on in the mortgage business. That same stuff goes on in the hedge fund business, in the Wall Street business. It's worse in those businesses, except for they're protected because it's because
they're in on the game. Look at what's going on with SBF today. He's not going to jail because he got the right people involved with him. He's not going there. There's going to be other scapegoats. I remember I had a friend of mine who was a former federal prosecutor. And when the subprime crisis was happening, I said to him, I said, Mike, is anybody going to go to jail for all the stuff that they did and all the people they've hurt? And he said to me, Rob, you got to understand something about law enforcement, especially on the federal level. He goes, we're police. We're always 2 steps behind. The criminals will always come up with a new way of committing the crime. We have to figure it out. It has to happen. And then we got to figure out, we'll always be 2 steps behind. So the purpose of the federal police or any regulatory body is to create the perception of deterrence. So they'll get a scapegoat, somebody easy to put in front of the cameras to say, hey, we got this bad guy and it's never going to happen again. You can trust the system. And that's all you're going to see happen over and over and again. And it happened with Madoff. Fine, they got Madoff and they put him away because he was easy to get. But SBF, they're not going to get him. They're going to get somebody else, some other underling. Okay, with all these banks, I remember Angelo Mozilla, the head of Countrywide back then. He was always on CNBC, Mr. Orangehead, they call him. He was always the one saying how everything is great, nothing is fine. And I remember how he took $10 billion from Bank of America. That's how Bank of America ended up taking Countrywide over. But you don't see him go anywhere anymore. So they'll get some scapegoats here and there, and they'll create this perception of everything is just fine. And over time, it'll go back and people will fall for the same trick over and over and over again. But like I said before, that's the difference between some people who are successful and those aren't. The little sheep that are going to follow the traditional ways of doing things, they're going to follow the herd right into the slaughterhouse. But those that can think independently and know that there's a better way and seek out that better way, those are the ones that will get beyond this slaughterhouse. Those are the ones that are going to really succeed. And honestly, I'm passionate about it now with my kids as well. People out there, especially if they have been blessed with the stewardship of children, they have a responsibility to make a better life for their children today. Learn it today, do it today, get them ahead so that they don't have to come from where I came from, where you came from in their lives as well. It's our responsibility to get them a step ahead. They need to do this.
So there's a lot to unpack here, folks. If you're listening, what I'm going to do is I'm going to rewind this story here. I want to go back to 2008, the subprime meltdown. You might know it as the Great Recession. Many of you are too young to even remember the aftermath of that. If you're 38 years or younger, you were impacted, but at a level that you don't understand. Your parents were. Your grandparents were impacted, but you were not, which is unique because we are 14 years out from that time. And if you will understand anything about market cycles, let's just talk about the short-term debt cycles and the short-term cycles that happen in the market. They're 5 to 8 years. What we're dealing with at this present point right now, 2022, is you're dealing with the combination, the collision of a long-term debt cycle combining and meeting a short-term debt cycle, also meeting a technology cycle, which we haven't seen since the dot-com crash. You got 3 major cycles. And I want to explain cycles just like the seasons and just like winter. We just got a foot of snow in the South Times. We're getting 6 feet of snow. So if you don't come from an area with snow, you wouldn't understand it. But this is the winter season. Okay. In the stock market, in the economic cycles, there are summer seasons and winter seasons. We are now in the process of moving into the winter season with the collision of 3 economic cycles merging at the exact same time. None of us, no one that can watch us, I don't care if they're 85 years old, has ever seen this happen. Okay, because it hasn't. The long-term debt cycle, the last one was 1934. You got to study history. I'm not trying to bore you folks, but I want to get you into the mindset. You heard his story. You heard Rob's story about how that impacted him when the whole thing fell apart. Everything got repossessed. He was, at the lowest point in his life. His Porsche got repossessed. That same thing is happening right now. It's too early. We're sitting down in the theater and it's just still the commercials. Like you're seeing all the big show hasn't happened yet. But I'm telling you right now, folks, if you don't get your house in order, if you don't get your shit and your money in order, you're going to be in that same circumstance. You're going to lose your job. I'm sorry. You might be like, oh, no way. Well, yeah, way. Look right now. Who's laying people off? The big FANG stocks, the almighty FANG stocks are laying people off at record levels. Meta, you might know it as Facebook, Amazon, big layoffs going on, but it's hush, hush. Okay. You're not hearing about that. Then you got all of them. I mean, the main ones you hear about is Elon Musk and Twitter. That needed to happen 4 years ago. And it's happening now because by force. And you're hearing IBM and AT&T, and I could go right down the line, soon to be Target and Walmart, all the others. They're all going to be laying people off. So where do you work? Your job's on the line right now. So I hope you got a secondary income and maybe even a tertiary income because you're going to need it. But here's the thing. It's probably too late for most people because you've been just riding this bull wave for 14 years thinking, oh my God, it's different this time. It's all going to be okay. And since the pandemic, you've gone on your revenge against the pandemic, revenge against COVID. So you've gone out and started traveling and look at the record numbers, Airbnbs, hotels, airlines, crazy. If you traveled, you know what I'm talking about. And you know where all that was funded? Credit cards. Because you know what just happened in the news the other day? 15-year record high in debts. Now, is this all sinking in, folks? The same freaking thing that happened in 2006, 7, actually it even goes back before that, but we'll just talk about that, is happening again at a much higher level because it's 3 economic cycles converging. Shit's about to hit the fan. If you don't learn about alternative investments, if you don't figure out how to take back control of your money, how to actually be in control of your money, not giving it to the advisors. I know a lot of advisors. I come from that world. You know what they're telling their clients? Put money in the stock market. I just dealt with one of my really good clients from back in those days. And I was on the phone with him and he's laying out this, he's so excited about this new advisory firm. And they're these managed guys and, they got the bow ties and everything on. Folks, you'll never see me in a suit. And if you do, I'm in a funeral and it's not a good thing. Okay. I don't wear suits anymore because I don't want to be those people. You know what they were telling them? Oh, we're going to take all this money. We're going to put it into an annuity. Big commissions. That's the only gain, and locks the money up for the client in the most valuable time when non-qualified money could be set aside. And I don't care if it's just cash, ready to deploy into the greatest opportunity of that client's lifetime. And this advisor wants to sell him a high commission annuity to get a big commission, put him in the market, and at the exact wrong time. Then he's got these other plans. Oh, let's take this money. We'll put it into this managed portfolio. We're going to manage it. What are you going to manage, dude? You don't even know your job. A financial advisor's job is to protect their clients' money when it matters. And a monkey can throw darts at, and they've done studies on this, can throw darts at stocks in a bull market and beat the best advisors. So you're going to tell me now an advisor's job is to invest money in the stock market at the point right where the floodgates are about to go, just like out in Australia where that dam broke open. That's going to be the stock market. All the money's gone, folks. So if you put your money in the stock market, it's gone. Mark my words. Oh, but he said just be in for the long haul. You clearly don't understand the drawdown effect. You don't even understand the impact of, oh, it's for the long haul. Stay the course. It's only a paper loss. Bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. You get with someone like Rob who understands the ramifications and the nonsense going on behind the scenes, or someone like myself, and you start learning about alternatives. His system he just talked about, okay, it's a real estate fund, okay, but it's a different kind of real estate fund, buying notes and actually serving a greater good. I want you to really focus on that. One of the laws of wealth is help other people solve problems. That's what his funds, so it's the purpose of the fund. Number one is to make money, but also help people not ever get in Rob's situation where everybody's against him taking what he built. He's trying to keep people in homes. Secondarily, He understands downside risk. Now, so does your advisor. Maybe they understand inverse, funds. Maybe they understand puts if they're actually halfway decent advisors. All too much risk. Options are not going to be the play this time. But what he understands is the two certains in life: death and taxes. Death and taxes. Let's take taxes off the table and let's just talk about death. What his fund does is buys settlements, life insurance settlements. What does life insurance do? It pays a really highly leveraged death benefit when someone dies. So if we all are going to die at some point, and you take out life insurance and your fund buys life insurance from people that no longer really need it, they don't want it, they just want the money back or some form of money because they want to live their life. It's revenge summer every day for them. So they sell their life insurance contract. His fund becomes the owner and the beneficiary of that. Fully legal. Nothing wrong with this, okay? Two people win. That person dies. Rob's fund gets a big payout, a leveraged payout, and then that pays the investors. That is the ultimate protection. The downside or the worst part about that is you don't know when people are going to die. So it's a waiting game. So you got to be patient. But how many of you want to be patient knowing that your return is guaranteed without any shadow of doubt? That's genius. We did that a while ago. We did a big fund, an $11 million fund, and we did exactly the same thing. We had criteria: 80 to 85 years old. Okay, we bought their policies. We knew it was all calculated. And we still have clients, that are in that fund complaining, I'm not getting paid on it anymore. No kidding, because now we're in that phase. The fund closed, and now we're in the phase where, unfortunately, we're waiting for the inevitable. It's a waiting game. But then on the other side, there's other funds, where you're taking that. You've got a little bit of risk, but it's a calculated risk that you're being paid for that risk versus reward. I didn't mean to go long on that, folks, but I just wanted to sum it up. That's what Rob's doing. That's what he's doing.
Dude, you needed to go long on that. And I'm going to take a couple of things that you just said. Look, in the end, going back to our human nature and our relationship with money, we all want to make more money and we don't want to lose it. So we're all driven to make more money. And sometimes taking shortcuts and getting greedy, we make mistakes and get more money. So look at what you were just talking about. Okay. I went through it. Our parents went through it. Our grandparents went through it, where we all started taking money out of our houses back in that last cycle. Okay. Now what happened this time around was people wanted to get ahead by putting money into cryptocurrency, getting ahead. Oh, the currency is going to go away. So let's get ahead in crypto because it's going to shoot through the roof and I'm going to make all my money. Right? And going back to the brokers make money just by moving money, just by the transactions. So it all comes down to what I say, alignment of interest and trust. I've asked plenty of people, I want you to put your money into this particular investment. And I've asked them, did you put your money in there? Well, no. Well, if you didn't put your money in there, it's not good enough for you. Then why would I put my money in there? There are a lot of people out there that are very generous with my money. They just don't get it. No, I want you to put it in here, put it in here, put it in here. How much you have in there? Nothing. So you want to look for alignment of interest. You want to look for, it's always a people business. You want to look at their heart and their soul. What are they doing for you and not so much for themselves? There's always a saying that I used to have. You want to get away from people who go by this mantra. We use people and love money. You want to get away from that. You want to get to the people who say, we use money to love people. There's a big difference. What are they looking at first? Looking at the money first and using people to get it? Or are they using the money to get more people in their lives? There's a different business and a different approach. And those are few and far between. But those are the people you want to look for that use money for a higher purpose to benefit others. Because it's not about chasing wealth, it's about attracting wealth. And you will attract it because you become a good steward of your wealth and helping others as well. Not chasing it. Never got into the cryptocurrency. I mean, I don't know how much more time we have, but that's another force that's coming as well, is the devaluation of our currencies and currencies around the world, which is all going to go into digital monetization later on. But not with Bitcoin. What's that?
They're doing it right now. I don't know if you saw that. They're using this whole fallout in the exchanges. They're using this, highlighting. It's why you see it in the news every day. And then behind, they're doing beta test of the new digital currency, which is.
So here's how this works, because it's a geopolitical storm as well. And let me tell you something about politics. Okay, while it's good to be aware of what goes on in politics, I don't participate in politics. I was taught that politics is designed to subvert your emotions in order to reap your production. Sounds like you're a sucker to me if you get involved in this. And think about what they do. They do all this stuff to interfere in your life, to just twist your emotions so they can get you to do what they want you to do. But the money doesn't do that. See, the money and the elitists, they're above the politics. That's where everybody wants to be. So get your mind out of the politics. Get out of the game. Don't be sucker and a prisoner to the politics as well. Understand it, but understand what the moves are being made and then make those moves to put yourself in a better position. So what's happening with the politics now? Yes, they're doing all this stuff and printing all this money and inflating all this budget and all this deficit because they're trying to destroy the dollar and really hurt our lives. Why? So that we can all cry that we can't eat. We have no money for, paying our gas bills or paying the gas in the car, or paying for food. And they're creating this entire crisis that we can go crying back to the government. Oh, government, please help me. And then they say, you know what? We'll help you. We have a solution. Fuck the dollar. I'm going to give you a digital dollar. Fuck the banks. We'll give it to you directly. And we will allow you to have digital money and we will save you. And what they're really doing is taking more control of your life and putting you into stronger handcuffs by controlling what you can spend your money on, how you can spend your money, how much of it you get. And if they decide they don't like you, they can just take it away. Because you know what? It's theirs. They're just loaning it to you and they can take it back whenever they want. And the more power they have to do that digitally, the more they can just go in, boop, and take it away. So this is a power play to put people into more prisons. Is it coming? It's coming. Are we going to end up with digital currency? It's coming. Okay, there's no stopping it. But understand what it is. But there are ways to prepare yourself. And I want to say something else that you go counter what you said, Chris. Yes, it may be too late for amassing the money now, but people have skills. People have resources. People need to make themselves valuable because there are other people with money looking for valuable talent to help them build their vision as well. If you don't have the resources to build your vision financially, then help build somebody else's and become a part of somebody else's vision because you do have skills and you do have resources. Be a part of something else bigger than you then. So you may be too late to do your own, but there's plenty of people that will allow you to tag along on their vision to help you get your vision as well. So it's not a complete lost cause if you're too late. You just got to think a little bit differently.
I love it. Now, I've read a lot of books, Creature from Jekyll Island, Secrets of the Federal Reserve. One thing you just said there kind of posed an interesting question, and I hadn't really given it much thought till now. So for those on here that don't understand this, the Fed, the Federal Reserve is not part of the U.S. government. Okay, it's a separate entity. The central banks are separate. They loan money to the U.S. government in the form of debt. The U.S. government issues debt. They give money because they control monetary policy.
Let me stop you right there, okay? Because that's a great point, and I want everybody to understand this point, okay? The way bankers think, which everybody should change their thinking.
Everybody has to think like a banker.
Like a banker, you need to think, and this is how they think: own nothing and control everything. Own nothing and control everything. A bit that goes against people's way. We should be owning stuff. We should be amassing our assets and stuff. Owning a piece of real estate is actually a liability.
People can take it from you.
People can take it. People can trip and fall. The insurance, and it costs. If we look at the simple side of a balance sheet, income and expenses, real estate almost all the time costs you more, not only in expenses but in liability, as opposed to the income that you can get. Now, the way you control everything and own nothing is by lending to it. Exactly. So just by what you're saying now, right? The Federal Reserve loans money to the government. The Federal Reserve doesn't own or run the government, but it controls it because it can turn the spigot off or on depending on the needs and the greed of the politicians. And the money always rules. And so the Fed doesn't own the government, but it certainly controls it.
Buy with the gold, makes the rules. Now, that brings me to the second part of that. So what you're seeing right now, and I've just, we all know about this digital dollar. We know it's coming. There's nothing we can do to really stop it. This whole thing with the crypto, problems with the exchanges is just a catapult. It's a catalyst that catapults them to have a narrative, because that's all it is. It's just pushing an agenda. a narrative to then really make this happen. Because, we're saving everybody. Oh my God, you guys lost so much. These bad people, which will never go to jail.
It's not good in their hands. We have to control this one. We can do it better.
Because they obviously they're just taking. If you look at this FTX thing, I'm not getting political, but look who was behind that. Look who was getting funded by this. Who got the money? Politicians. But anyway.
Exactly.
Now you've got the Fed that controls everything, but they don't run the government. They control the money, which is the eye with the gold makes the rules. Is the U.S. government trying to get rid of that power that the Fed has? Is there really like a great reset that has to do with the Fed and the U.S. government, or the Fed, the world, and the central banks trying to kind of disembark this relationship, this tie? I don't know. I feel like the Fed's too powerful and too connected. However, I mean, I don't know. Could there be an argument to be made that this could be that? Or is the Fed behind the digital dollar? And actually, I don't know. It's so complicated because
I understand it to be that it's the CBDC, the central banking digital currency. And so the central bankers are behind this, and they want to usurp the commercial bankers and go direct to the consumers with their digital wallets and get the commercial banks out of the way. Because part of what they try to do, right, is, when they were giving all of this stimulus and they gave it to all the banks. This is one of the reasons why you're seeing such a correction in the traditional stock markets today. They gave all this money to the banks. And then what the banks did is they did a lot of corporate lending, where a lot of these corporations took that money and bought back their own stock.
Right, absolutely.
Right. And they leverage it up, and they propped up the price. Well, when you prop up the price, but you don't have enough underlying production to support that price, everybody else jumps in. Oh, we're making all this money. We're making all this money, until it all collapses. And that's what you're seeing today, is a debt collapse on the corporate side. And all the people that own the equities are the ones that are suffering, because equity takes the first losses.
Yep, the middle class is who's going to take the hit on this.
That's exactly right. So the Fed's looking at this. Wait, I tried to fix this problem because the Fed bought, I don't know how many trillions of dollars, 11, 12, 13, 14 trillion dollars worth of the mortgage-backed securities to stop the crash from happening back in 2010. So they took it all on their balance sheet, said, okay, everybody can get their houses back in order, get to producing again. And then the last couple of years, they started dumping that stuff back into the marketplace again and wanted to give more stimulus so people can have more money to create more production, but it didn't happen that way. So now they're saying, you know what? You guys don't want to do it our way. You all want to be greedy? Great. We're getting you out of the system, and we'll go direct to the consumer ourselves so we can control, and we'll have more power without the banks in the way. So that's what I see coming.
It makes all the sense. It's the epitome of a house of cards. Like when he's talking about, they're propping the stock up by that. Okay. It's easy. It's very easy for them to prop it up, especially when they're just printing money. Money's fiat money. It doesn't have any backing anymore. That's why they had to go off the gold standard. Those are the good old days. So that's all fake money. They print as much as they want, build this house of cards. And who fills in the balance of that house of cards? You do. Because you bought the stock. Your advisor said, this is the best thing. Let's get these mutual funds, these ETFs. Let's buy into these freedom date funds, these retirement date funds. Let's get your retirement all set up and make it so easy for you. You are the one filling that gap. And then all they got to do is just pull one out, and the whole thing crumbles down. Folks, you're going to see it. It's not a, well, maybe you'll see that happen in your lifetime. No, you're going to see it in the next 2 years. You're going to see it. And guess who's going to be the one holding the bag? You are. Until
it's the sinking of the Titanic, right? You can when you hit the iceberg, you don't necessarily see it going down. But if you see the size of the iceberg and you were at the bow of that ship and you saw it, you started preparing. If you were back at the stern or back in your cabin, you didn't know what happened, and you're coming outside, oh, everything looks fine. You don't know what happened. And if someone tells you we're about to go down, you're like, I don't see it. I don't believe it. And then it gets to be too late, because then the bow is underwater. Right. And then you try to get to a lifeboat and they're gone. It's going to happen. It's a matter of, it's people's belief systems. Do you want to believe it's going down? People don't want to believe it's going to happen. I don't want to believe it's going to happen, but I know it is. But I'd rather not be fooled by my beliefs. I have a responsibility to know better, be aware, and get prepared now while I still can.
This is interesting. This is so interesting. Hopefully, folks, this opens your eyes a little bit. Yeah, Rob, how do people learn more about your funds and what you're doing and this alternative push where you're really focused on helping people? Please tell people how they can learn.
So I'm trying to, and I'm building a whole marketing new brand about this. And so I'm creating this concept called capturing tomorrow, because I believe we need to be guardians of our wealth today, and also at the same time be champions of our children's future. And so we call that capturing tomorrow. So people that want to get really good at this, you can reach me at this email address, brilliant@capturingtomorrow.com. I only want to deal with people who, I only will deal with people who are really going to take this seriously and who want to be brilliant at capturing tomorrow. So get me at brilliant@capturingtomorrow.com. And this capturing tomorrow concept is what we're building up, that it needs to go for a higher purpose. We need to play defense today, securing what we have, and we need to be significant for our children's future. So that's what we're playing with here: security and significance. And we're doing it through real estate, and we do it through the funds that we've created. That's the pathway. We can illuminate the pathway for people to become significant and also be secure at the same time. That's what it's about.
I love it. So going into this podcast episode, I had no idea how aligned our viewpoints are and our missions are. But folks, I hope you enjoyed this. I really do. I mean, you just got a college education and what's about to unfold. And it is probably the single greatest piece of education you could get. However, it means absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing if you don't take action on this. If you don't do something to change what the outcome will be. You can't control that, but you can control the path and the direction that you take in this path or in this journey. So folks, I urge you, get a hold of him. We'll put that email in the description. Don't waste his time. If you're serious about changing things, if you're that person that's ready to create something different for your family and your life, this is the opportunity for you. With that being said, folks, thank you for joining us in this awesome, epic episode. Rob, thanks for your time. It was an honor, and I can't wait to continue these conversations.
Chris, it was my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate everything that you're doing. I appreciate you, my man.
All right, folks, we'll see you soon. If you want to learn more, check out my YouTube channel at The Chris Naugle. This is what we talk about. This is what we're teaching, and this is what we want to do to help you on your journey. We'll see you next time.